Hey everyone, welcome back to the Incredible India podcast series. Today we're embarking on a deep dive into something truly fascinating, the unsung Indian inventions that, well, profoundly shaped our modern world. It's kind of amazing when you think about it, so many foundational elements of our daily lives, from how we do math to how we treat illness, they have these surprising ancient roots we rarely acknowledge.
Exactly. It's really remarkable how many core concepts spanning from abstract mathematical ideas to very practical advancements in medicine and engineering actually emerged from ancient India. These contributions were often overlooked, yet their global impact is just undeniable. Our mission today is to sort of unearth those surprising connections and reveal just how much we owe to this ancient ingenuity.
Okay, let's unpack this, because what we're about to explore, I think it's genuinely eye-opening. Get ready for some aha moments. So let's maybe start with something you probably use every single day, numbers. Ever try to multiply a number by nothing? You get zero. But, I mean, how do you even represent nothing mathematically? Before India gave us zero, how did civilizations manage this fundamental challenge?
Well, what's truly profound here is that the concept of zero, functioning both as a placeholder and a numerical value, it actually originated in India around the 5th century CE. It was Brahmagupta, this brilliant 7th century mathematician, who formally defined zero and, crucially, established the rules for its arithmetic, adding, subtracting, multiplying.
Right, dividing too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And think about it. Without zero, a place value system is basically impossible.
And without a place value system, where each digit's position matters, the ones, tens, hundreds, I mean, just imagine trying to write out large numbers or balance a ledger or even conceive of binary code. It's the bedrock of every computer, isn't it? Every digital device. We totally take it for granted, but civilizations like Rome, with their, well, clunky Roman numerals, they simply couldn't achieve the mathematical complexity we teach elementary school kids.
Oh, not easily.
That's just a foundational shift in how humanity could compute.
It really is. And the decimal system, which lets us represent any number with just 10 symbols, 0 through 9, it developed hand in hand with zero. This elegant system wasn't just some mathematical trick. It was a cultural exchange, too. From India, it traveled along ancient trade routes. It was embraced by scholars in the Islamic world.
Ah, okay.
And from there, it slowly but surely transformed calculations across Europe, eventually replacing those cumbersome methods forever.
It really puts into perspective how difficult higher math must have been. Can you imagine doing algebra with Roman numerals? Talk about a nightmare.
Yeah, pretty much impossible for anything complex.
And we see early evidence of this brilliance in things like the Bakshali manuscript, right? Confirming just how far back this understanding goes.
That's correct. It provides tangible evidence.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Ancient India's early understanding of infinity. While Western mathematics kind of struggled with this concept for centuries, Indian thinkers were already exploring it thousands of years ago.
Indeed. The Yajur Veda, an ancient text from around maybe 1400 to 1000 BCE, contains this really remarkable passage. If you remove a part from infinity or add a part to infinity, still what remains is infinity.
Wow.
And this isn't just abstract philosophy. Jain mathematicians actually went further, classifying different types of infinities countable and uncountable.
Seriously, when was this?
This was centuries upon centuries before similar distinctions appeared in Western mathematics with George Cantor in the 19th century.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and this profound conceptual leap, it actually aided in developing things like series expansions and understanding irrational numbers much earlier.
And these mathematical leaps weren't just theoretical exercises, were they? They had real practical applications, especially in astronomy, which then directly led to the foundations of trigonometry.
That's exactly right. The oldest surviving trigonometric tables we know of come from India, found in the Surya Siddhanta from around the 4th, 5th century CE. Then Aryabhata expanded on these concepts in his work, the Aryabhatiya, in 499 CE.
And the precision was good.
Oh, remarkably so.
Yeah.
They computed sine values correct to 4 decimal places and developed the equivalents of sine, cosine, and versine functions centuries before Europe caught up. Get this, Bhaskara II's Siddhanta Shiromani in the 12th century even contained trigonometric formulas that would only be rediscovered in Europe like 500 years later.
500 years.
Yeah, these innovations powered incredibly accurate Indian astronomical observations and calendrical systems. It went far beyond just looking at the stars.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit to something that impacts everyone, healthcare. Ever wonder why some, traditional home remedies your grandma uses actually seem to work? Turns out she might be tapping into Ayurveda, a 5,000-year-old medical tradition that's, amazingly, still continuously practiced.
It's quite a stark contrast to many early Western medical approaches. Ayurveda really embraced a holistic philosophy. It focused on individualized preventative care and understanding the body's humors, or doshas as they're called. They treated the whole person, considering food, exercise, even thoughts as integral parts of medicine. These are concepts modern medicine is only now, fully embracing.
And its relevance isn't just historical, right? You see big pharmaceutical companies quietly filing patents on traditional Ayurvedic herbs like turmeric, ashwagandha, holy basil.
Absolutely. It just goes to show their enduring efficacy, quietly shaping modern pharmacology even today.
So beyond herbs, what about procedures?
Well, another incredible medical innovation from ancient India is the very foundation of plastic surgery. Around 600 BCE, a physician named Susruta was performing some really sophisticated procedures, rebuilding noses, ears, lips, and he meticulously documented them in his comprehensive text, the Susruta Samhita.
So the modern nose job, rhinoplasty, basically has its roots there.
Pretty much, yeah. The Indian method, using skin grafts from the cheek or forehead to reconstruct a nose, it traveled to Europe in the 1700s. And it quite literally astounded Western physicians at the time.
Wow. But it wasn't just noses, right?
Oh no, so Schröder's advancements went well beyond rhinoplasty. He described over 300 distinct surgical procedures and detailed about 120 different surgical instruments. What's more, his understanding of antiseptics, using wine for instance to clean wounds, predates Western germ theory by maybe 2 millennia.
2,000 years.
Yeah. He even performed cataract surgeries using a technique called couching, carefully displacing the clouded lens.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How much of our modern surgical toolkit quietly relies on these ancient ideas, if you've ever had stitches?
You can probably thank Cicero for the concept, yeah.
Mm.
His detailed writings classified surgical procedures into 8 main categories, things like excision, incision, suturing, and so on. But perhaps most impressive for the time was his structured approach to surgical training.
Training. How so?
Students actually practiced on things like vegetables, gourds, leather pouches, and cloth models before operating on patients. This idea of practical graduated training was, well, unprecedented globally back then.
Okay, here's another medical leap that might surprise you. Did you know India was practicing a form of immunization centuries before Edward Jenner's famous work on vaccination in the West? They had methods against smallpox.
Yes, it's true. While smallpox was devastating populations globally, ancient Indians developed a process called tika, which means mark. This involved deliberately introducing material from mild smallpox cases, pustules, basically through small scratches in the skin of healthy individuals.
That sounds risky.
Comparatively, it wasn't. It was a systematic public health intervention with really remarkable success rates. It was often integrated into religious rituals performed by specialized Brahmin families, which actually helped ensure widespread acceptance. And get this, the mortality rate from this traditional inoculation was incredibly low, maybe 1–2%, compared to a 20–30% death rate from catching smallpox naturally.
That's a massive difference. Just incredible. And speaking of ancient medical knowledge, India also has this long history with zinc, right? Connecting to its medicinal uses for over 2,500 years.
Precisely. While Europe was still figuring out zinc as a distinct element in the 18th century, ancient Indian medical texts like the Rasaratna Samukkaya were already describing how to use zinc compounds. They used them for treating eye infections, skin conditions, wounds. They clearly understood its antiseptic properties. These texts detail precise methods for preparing these therapeutic compounds.
And they produced it, too.
Oh, yes. India was also the first place known to achieve industrial-scale zinc production. This was at Zawar in Rajasthan around the 12th century. And even today, modern ophthalmologists still prescribe zinc sulfate, often called tutha, for certain eye infections. And zinc oxide is common in skin creams. It's a testament to the enduring relevance of this ancient insight.
Okay, let's transition from medicine to materials. Ever stood in front of something like 1,600 years old that looks like it was built last century? That's the Iron Pillar of Delhi for you. Stands 24 feet tall in the Qutb complex, and incredibly, it just haven't rusted despite centuries of exposure to, monsoons, heat, everything.
Right. The secret lies in this unique, protective, rust-resistant layer of an iron compound. It's called mesoweight, basically iron hydrogen phosphate that forms on its surface. This happens because the ancient metallurgist had precise control over its composition, specifically its high phosphorus content. And the pillar itself is a manufacturing feat weighing over 6 tons, created as a single piece through forge welding. Just an astonishing achievement.
And then there's wootz steel, the original Damascus steel, right? Produced in southern India since maybe 300 BCE. Legendary stuff.
Absolutely legendary. Famous for its ability to slice through ordinary metal, hold an incredibly sharp edge, and for those distinctive patterns. What's truly remarkable, discovered much later with electron microscopes, is that wootz steel actually contained carbon nanotubes and nanowires.
Nanotechnology. Back then.
Essentially, yes. Imagine structures 1,000 times thinner than a human hair, giving the steel incredible strength and sharpness. Ancient Indian craftsmen were creating these nanomaterials centuries before we even had the tools to see them. They did it through precise control of heating, cooling, and adding specific botanical ingredients. Unfortunately, the exact production secrets were largely lost during British colonial rule.
What a loss.
Indeed.
No.
And their metallurgical skill went beyond steel. Ancient Indian texts, like Rasaratna Sambhakaya and Rasarnava from around 500 CE, describe really sophisticated techniques for purifying gold. They used plant extracts, multi-stage heating, chemical treatments, achieving incredible purity, like 99.7%. And often these methods were actually safer and more environmentally friendly than techniques that came much later.
Now, most history books might tell you zinc distillation was invented in China or Europe.
They might, but they'd be wrong. Archaeological findings confirm India's pioneering role, specifically in industrial-scale zinc distillation.
Where was this?
At Zawar, in Rajasthan, we find the world's first known zinc smelting furnaces there, dating back to the 12th century. See, the big challenge with zinc is that it vaporizes below its melting point. It turns into gas before it becomes liquid metal.
Right. Tricky.
Very. Indian metallurgists solved this with a clever process called downward distillation. They used specially designed retorts, sort of like clay pots, to capture the zinc vapor and condense it down into pure metal. They achieved 99.5% purity this way.
Centuries before Europe figured it out.
Centuries before, yes. And on an industrial scale, not just small experiments.
Okay, let's talk textiles. Something incredibly widespread. Did you know India's relationship with cotton goes back like 5,000 years?
It's true. Ancient Indians absolutely mastered cotton cultivation. They developed tools like the churka, which was essentially a wooden cotton gin, centuries before Eli Whitney's invention. And their carding and combing techniques produced threads of just extraordinary fineness. So delicate that legends claim entire garments could pass through a finger ring.
Wow.
And what's more, they developed sophisticated crop rotation systems, specifically for cotton. Detailed in texts like the Krishi Parashara, we're talking sustainable farming methods far ahead of their time.
And the colors, those vibrant blues of indigo dye. That's another Indian innovation, right? Dating back to maybe 2000 BCE?
Correct. Indian dyers figured out that fermenting indigo plants created these incredibly stable, permanent blue dyes. They pioneered complex multi-step dyeing processes and resist dyeing methods like bandhani, tie-dye, and kalamkari, pen-drawn fabrics. They used a stunning palette of natural dyes madder, root for reds, turmeric for yellows, pomegranate, safflower. These weren't just pretty colors. They were stable, long-lasting, all without synthetic chemicals.
And wasn't there a secret sauce behind India's textile dominance? Something called mordants?
Exactly. Mordants were key. Indian dyers discovered that certain minerals like alum, iron salts, copper sulfates could act as fixatives, permanently binding the dyes to the fabric fibers. This clever trick allowed them to create multiple vibrant colors from a single plant source just by applying different mordants.
Ah, so the same dye could make different colors depending on the mordant.
Precisely. Their complex multi-mordant techniques, like in kalamkari fabrics, which could involve up to 17 different applications, were perfected through generations of keen observation and experimentation, long before modern chemical analysis existed.
Incredible skill. Now, shifting topics again. How did ancient Indians know exactly when to plant crops or celebrate festivals? They weren't just guessing, were they? They had some pretty precise navigational and astronomical systems.
They certainly did. The sidereal calendar, which was developed around the 5th century CE, is a great example. It divided the zodiac into 27 nakshatras, or lunar mansions. This system allowed them to predict star positions thousands of years into the future with remarkable accuracy, based on the fixed stars, not just the sun's path. This was fundamental for agriculture and religious calendars.
And for sailing, too.
Absolutely. Indian seafarers developed advanced maritime navigation instruments. There was the kamal, essentially a wooden card with knotted string, which helped measure latitude by aligning celestial bodies with the horizon. They also used early forms of magnetic compasses and had detailed star charts for their extensive trade routes, dating back as early as the 1st century CE. This enabled really long-distance voyages across the Indian Ocean and beyond.
And speaking of looking at the sky, eclipses, Indians didn't just observe them, they predicted them with stunning accuracy, right? When much of the world still thought they were like divine omens or dragons eating the sun.
That's right. Aryabhata, back in the 5th century, correctly identified that eclipses were caused by shadows, the Earth's shadow on the moon, or the moon's shadow on the Earth, not divine intervention. And his calculations could predict their timing often within minutes. The Surya Siddhanta, an astronomical text from around 400 CE, contains sophisticated formulas for planetary positions. It even describes elliptical orbits.
Before Kepler?
Way before Kepler in the 17th century, yes. They also had precise time-measuring instruments like the Gadiyantra, a type of water clock that worked day and night. Ancient texts even mention units of time as small as a truti, which is roughly zero 0.3 microseconds. They had a very sophisticated concept of time, often cyclical.
Mind-boggling precision. Okay, let's move on to some daily life inventions we often take for granted. Ever wonder why chess feels like it's been around forever?
That's because its core concept pretty much has. The game we know today began as chaturanga in 6th century India. The name means 4 divisions of military, infantry, cavalry, elephants, chariots. What's fascinating is how little the fundamental strategy has changed in, 1,500 years? The pieces evolved, sure, into our pawns, knights, bishops, and rooks.
The elephant became the bishop.
Often, yes, through various transformations as it spread. The game traveled globally, influencing strategy and thought across cultures. Even the term checkmate comes from the Persian Shah Mat, meaning the king is dead, showing his journey from India.
Okay, something even more common. You're probably wearing them right now. But have you ever stopped to think about buttons?
Probably not. But buttons were pioneered in ancient India, around 2000 BCE, in the Indus Valley civilization. Initially, they were mostly ornamental, made from shells and things, but the real game changer, the functional innovation, was the buttonhole. Just a simple cut in the fabric, usually reinforced with stitching, that created a secure, adjustable fastening system.
And that basically revolutionized clothing.
It really did. It remains fundamental to fashion and function today. Simple, but brilliant.
And get this, the word shampoo actually comes from the Hindi word champo, which means to massage or knead.
And that's exactly what traditional Indian hair care involved. Not just washing, but a vigorous scalp massage using natural cleansing agents, herbs like Retha, soapnut, shikakai, and amla, Indian gooseberry. These were used for cleansing and nourishment.
So how did it become the stuff in bottles?
Well, when British colonial visitors experienced these head massages, these champy sessions, they brought the practice back to England. It evolved into commercial shampooing services in salons and eventually led to the development of the modern liquid shampoos we use today.
Okay, walk into any wellness shop today and you'll find incense sticks everywhere. These aren't some new age invention, are they?
Not at all. They're direct descendants of ancient Indian aromatic innovations, dating back maybe over 5,000 years. India really pioneered the use of aromatics for both spiritual and medicinal purposes. You see references in the Vedas. The word perfume itself comes from the Latin perfumum, meaning through smoke, which likely references this ancient practice of burning aromatic substances.
Right, like incense.
Exactly. Indian incense perfected the balance of ingredients for consistent, pleasant fragrance. And Ayurveda, the medical system we talked about, even prescribes specific scents like sandalwood for calming or jasmine for treating different ailments. They understood the medicinal properties of scents centuries ago.
Okay, one last area for daily life. Plumbing. Most people think advanced plumbing is a modern luxury, or maybe a Roman innovation at best. The truth?
The truth lies much earlier in the Indus Valley civilization, flourishing from around 3300 to 1300 BCE. They had incredibly sophisticated water management and sanitation systems. Cities like Mohenjo-Daro had what might be the world's first known urban sanitation system. We're talking private toilets in houses, connected to complex drainage systems made of fired bricks, with precisely calculated slopes for flow, and even manholes for maintenance access.
That's astounding for that long ago.
It really is. They also prioritize water conservation with massive public baths, likely for ritual and social purposes, and sophisticated rainwater collection systems built into their urban planning.
Let's quickly touch on some agricultural innovations, too. Those incredible step wells you sometimes see in travel photos from India. They weren't built just for aesthetics.
No. Definitely not. They were vital parts of sophisticated irrigation systems designed to access groundwater, especially in arid regions. But even earlier, we see the tank irrigation system, dating back perhaps 3000 BCE, which involved engineered reservoirs for storing monsoon water. There were also simpler systems like the deckley, a counterweighted lever or pulley mechanism for drawing water from wells. And as we mentioned, the Indus Valley cities had advanced underground drainage systems as early as 2600 BCE, showcasing an early understanding of hydrology and resource management.
And Indian farmers weren't just watering crops. They were, as you said, playing chess with the soil. Crop rotation was a big thing.
A very big thing. That's a great analogy. Traditional systems like Panchakavya Krishi involve rotating maybe 5 different crop types to maintain soil health. We find descriptions in Sanskrit texts from as early as 1000 BCE outlining rice wheat rotation, often alternating with legumes like lentils or peas to naturally replenish nitrogen in the soil. This maintained fertility for centuries without chemical fertilizers.
And specific guides, too.
Yes. Texts like the Krishi Parashara from around 400 BCE outlined complex planting and rotation schedules based on seasons, soil types, rainfall patterns, aiming for optimal yields and long-term sustainability.
Okay, and when ancient Indian farmers had pest problems, they didn't run to, well, a non-existent store for chemicals.
Yeah.
They went to their kitchen gardens or used local plants, right?
Exactly. Neem was definitely the MVP, as they say, of natural pesticides. Extracts from neem leaves and seeds were known to repel over 200 species of insects. But they also used other things readily available extracts from turmeric, garlic, onion. Companion planting was also practiced growing certain plants together, like marigolds near vegetables, to deter pests. And sometimes controlled burning of specific herbs was used to fumigate storage areas or fields, all aimed at protecting crops without harming humans or the environment.
And finally, keeping the seeds safe for the next planting season.
Right, seed storage and preservation technologies were also quite ingenious. Simple clay pots, often sealed, served as perfect containers, keeping seeds dry and safe from rodents. They used natural preservatives too, coating seeds with neem oil, mixing them with ash, or storing them in mixtures of cow dung and clay, which had antifungal and insect repellent properties. Some texts even suggest timing seed collection based on lunar cycles to ensure optimal moisture content and viability. It was all about ensuring food security for the community. So as we've seen today, from the revolutionary concept of zero and the decimal system, which underpins all our technology, to sophisticated plastic surgery techniques, precise astronomical calculations that predated European discoveries, and even everyday items like buttons and shampoo, India's contributions to global innovation are both incredibly profound and remarkably far-reaching. These unsung inventions have just seamlessly integrated into our modern lives, often, without proper acknowledgement of their Indian origins. It truly reminds us that human ingenuity is global, it's collaborative, and it's built upon shared knowledge across civilizations and time.
Absolutely. So the next time you use the number zero, or maybe wear cotton clothing, or benefit from modern surgical techniques, just take a moment perhaps to appreciate the brilliant Indian minds who centuries ago shaped our world in ways we're still benefiting from today. And if you decide to travel to India, we have a recommendation. Five Senses Tours organizes tours across India, which are immersive cultural experiences. You can email contact@fivesensestours.com. Note 5 is written as a numeral in contact at fivesensestours.com, or WhatsApp to +919 845 677446.